We've just covered the main window, and really it relates to desktop applications. A main window concept is a desktop application. Now, Avalonia can run on mobile and browser, so that brings us to the next topic, which is TopLevel. The reason TopLevel exists is to have a separation of concerns and an easy migration from desktop into all the other platforms. So a short answer to this is a main window is always a valid top level. But a top level isn't always necessarily a main window because it can be other things. So classic C# inheritance, we can see in here, we can use the static TopLevel.GetTopLevel from any control to ride up the tree to get to the main window in our case. Or if this was on a mobile application, it would get to a different top level. So let's just see that in action. You can see it gives us an example here already of how to get the top level. So in order to kind of understand the top level a bit, we need to really call this and see what's happening. Now, what the TopLevel.GetTopLevel does is it takes a control. So in our instance, we could say get the button, and it will walk the visual tree all the way up until the last element. And specifically in the desktop, the last element will be this main window. That's how it works in this specific style. Now, if we were to go into an Android application, for example, that would not walk up to the main window, and you will see that happen. For now though, let's just call this TopLevel.GetTopLevel and see it actually working. The best place for us is just in the code behind on a button click. This sender will be a UI element, so we have a nice way of doing var TopLevel equals, and then we'll call this static TopLevel.GetTopLevel, and we can just pass in sender. Now, we can say as visual because it will be a visual, I'm pretty sure. Put a breakpoint and run the application, and this should get us then, hopefully, main window if all goes to plan once we click that button. So click the button, in we go, and we can see there is the main window. So this is a useful way to go from some UI element and find the top level. Now, this is kind of almost fully removed when you use MVVM because you shouldn't be aware of the actual top level view, or really there's never a case to do so is more accurate. When you use model view model, you're not really ever accessing that kind of raw view and then editing things, but there are situations where this is useful, so it's worth knowing about. Some of them are accessing things on the top level, so you can see we have client size, clipboard, FocusManager, things like that. And if we go to the top level at the moment and do clipboard, you can see we have access to the clipboard. So this will find the clipboard because every top level element, whether it's a main window or something in Android, has to adhere by these things. So these are now everything in a top level you'll always have access to across all platforms. This allows us to put things in the clipboard, for example. We can get a FocusManager to focus certain elements and a whole host of other values that are relevant to every kind of application, not just desktop. So it's basically just turning top level elements from a generic desktop into a universal shared properties class, and that's the whole point of top level. You can see here that's the method we've just called. This is really for tightly controlled manual UI callbacks, maybe game engines, things like that, or if you want to trigger specific renders. And you can see it's used here to do an invalidation and render loop. So again, more hard-coded render control. But as a whole, you'll rarely find the need to use this. I'd say the most common thing everybody uses this for is these two, the clipboard and the FocusManager. So if we wanted to say, for example, TopLevel.clipboard.setData, and this is going to allow us to set the clipboard data. And this is actually for setting custom data. We don't want that. We just want to, well, you can use that, but we can just use the SetText instead. And we'll do hello world. And now this is complaining because in theory, it thinks this could be null, which we know it isn't. And clipboard could be null. So if it's null and there's no clipboard on the device, then we will bypass that. So now if we click the button and then try to paste some text, we should have hello world in the clipboard. So the first thing we can do is say, do this, copy, paste. You can see our paste now is that number. Click the button, paste again. And now we have hello world in the clipboard. So that's one of the uses that is fairly common. And then the other most common use is the FocusManager. So for that, we also have the FocusManager, and it's pretty simple to use. use focus, it wants an element and a method, etc. And all we care about for that is an actual element. So we could say the Celsius text and just leave it at that. And that should now, although it's going to be kind of hard to show it, it should focus the text box. The only thing we have really focusable is, well, you can tell the difference when you focus, we get this blue border. So clicking the button, see how it's taken the focus away, but letting go is refocusing. So that's now focusing the text box. However, you wouldn't normally use it to set the focus because you could literally just do Celsius text dot focus with a helper method. So it will ultimately use the FocusManager, but it's an easy way to focus. Instead, you'd normally use the FocusManager to get the focused element. So we could do that again in the same way, TopLevel.FocusManager.getFocusedElement. And this will tell us which element is focused. And in this instance, it would probably return the text box on the first click because it might not steal focus on the click while it's in the onClick event. And then the second click would be the actual button. So that's the button at the minute. Let's click in here so that isn't focused. Click the button. And no, I think it's stealing focus too quick. So you can see though, however, it's still got the correct thing, which is the focused button. So that's really all there is to know about the top level. And again, you won't use this too much when using MVVM.